So this is going to be an introduction to the ZBrush interface video. So once you open ZBrush, normally you have something that pops up that looks like this. This is essentially your light box, and the way that you can get rid of it is just by hit comma on the hotkey. The first thing I would normally do is I go to Preferences, I hit Initialize ZBrush, and I hit Yes. Now your ZBrush window might be a lot smaller than mine, so what you want to do is go to Document and then just hit double right away. And what that'll do is that'll double up your work area. Let's take a look at navigating the how you rotate, move, and things like that. So for that, we're going to go ahead and load up a sphere. So go ahead and click on Simple Brush here, and there's a Sphere 3D here. Go ahead and click on that. Now you have to, if you're using a mouse or using your pen, you have to click or left click and drag out a sphere. And what happens is it launches all of your options up here, right? Which is to edit, move, scale, or rotate. Now the problem with that is you have to click edit in order to edit the sphere or move it. Otherwise, when you click, you're just going to keep dragging out more spheres. If you do this by mistake, what you want to do is go ahead and hit the Control key plus N. So just Control N, and that'll clear it out. So I'm going to go ahead and click with my pen on the pad and just draw out a sphere that's about this big. And then I'm going to hit T for edit. What that allows me to do is now you'll notice that my cursor follows along the shape of the sphere. If I click in here, you can see I can move around. And this is how you rotate an object. A lot of people through rotation get confused about where the up and down axis is. That's where you turn on floor over here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. The way you do that is you hold Alt, and either you click with your left mouse button or with your pen. And what that allows you to do is, first it takes you into a pan mode, and then once you release the Alt key but not your pen off of the tablet, or you do not release your left mouse button, it lets you zoom in and out. Okay, so now you can see that the floor there is where the bottom of my sphere is. Now if you get off kilter like this and you want to get your sphere to be straight on or a better view, if you begin to rotate and you hold the Shift key, you'll notice it snaps it to the different views, and this is very useful when you're sculpting. So the next thing we're going to do is take a look at how we actually can adjust or sculpt onto the sphere itself. So I'm going to hit F to focus, and that brings me over to here. Now, this sphere that's loaded in is not a poly mesh, which means it's not something we can sculpt on. So the way to do that is you go up here and you click Make Poly Mesh 3D. And with that, now you'll notice it created another tool in here, and it says PM3D Sphere 3D. And I have a standard brush here selected, so when I draw on the sphere, you can see it now pulls those vertices on the object up. If I want to sculpt a character, I normally do it with symmetry on. That means I want to sculpt both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the X as in Xerox key, and you'll notice now that it draws symmetrically. So I'm going to hold Alt, click on the view, and zoom out a little bit. And you can see this is a way of this is how we're doing it. You can see this is how we can sculpt. In order to change the brush, right, there's a bunch of different options. You can hold the space bar down, and that'll bring up these brush options, and you can click here. Or I'm sorry, and you can click here under where the standard brush is, and you see that I have all these other brushes. So for example, my favorite brush is Clay Buildup, and that'll allow me to sculpt with more of this attribute. If I hold S down, I can scale up the size of my brush, or if I held spacebar down, I can adjust the size of my brush here. Now, you'll notice that I'm not really getting a lot of really nice smooth things. It's very jagged, not as smooth edges. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and hit Control and D as in duck, and that'll divide my object. You can see now with it divided, I have a lot more vertices that I can move around and sculpt. Another way of dividing your mesh so that you can see more is go to the geometry panel here, and you can see you have a subdivision here, you have divide, and that allows to divide it even more. If you want to go to a lower subdivision as you're sculpting, which is often the case while you're working on characters, you can go down through your stack like this. All right. So that's the basics of the interface, which we're going to review as we move on and we continue to sculpt.